So many different things happening here on Planet Stew. Hard to keep track of them all. Sent out a direct mail from the Independent Book Publishers Association. Several people from California to Wisconsin to right here in the Queen City have asked for copies of my book, What She Said and What I Heard, How One Man Shut Up and Started Listening. So we'll see what happens with that. Let you in on a little secret. I've been working on a children's book, something I've never done, and the first storyboard came back from a wonderful artist who now lives in the Triangle named Liza Donovan. So you heard it here first. I hope to have that out Thanksgiving, Christmas time. The book is called Sophia Loves Tortillas, and it's very sweet. It's very sweet. It doesn't sound like something I did. And then I'm working on a new business venture, which I already have clients for. Basically, talking to people to preserve and collect their reminiscences, their oral history. And I have several clients for that, including a couple of interviews this week. So it's just head spinning how rapidly things happen. But the podcast will always be here every Thursday, like clockwork. And this week is special. Hope you enjoy.
You've got to give back to the community, and you cannot forget where you come from.
What is the sound of one man listening? This is Man Listening, a fresh podcast featuring the stories of strong women who bounce back. Man Listening, because every woman deserves to be heard.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Man Listening. I'm Stuart Watson. I met Corlis Hayes when we did the reading of a play together on Facebook. It was very strange because the actors were spread from Nashville to Iowa to Charlotte to New York City, and the play was called Love and Justice and Other Fairy Tales. It was the NYU thesis play for a wonderful playwright named Raven Monroe, who I call young. Everybody's young to me. She's wonderful. And Corlis is just delightful. And she asked me to read for a couple of parts in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do because we're going to be out of town in August when they produce that in the Charlotte area. But watch for that. And Corlis is a hoot. She is just a delight. We had so much fun. We sat on a park bench in Freedom Park just off of East Boulevard in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you'll hear background noises of the children playing on the playground. It was just a blast, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it too. Corlis Hayes. Where were you born?
Chicago, Illinois.
Hospital or home?
Hospital, yes.
What hospital was it?
I think it was Providence Hospital. It's an historical black hospital that is no longer there as in its original state, but I think through philanthropy and the city, it was in the area what they call Southside Washington Park, and they've upgraded that area, and I think they've may have changed the name of that hospital, but that whole area has been revitalized.
Do you ever go back?
Of course I do. My mother's there. My four sisters are there. I better go back.
How old is your mother?
My mother is 85.
How's her memory?
Wonderful. Maybe too good. She remembers a lot, darling.
For purposes of understanding Corlis, tell me about your mother.
Okay. Well, first of all, and I'm going to kind of backpedal. I was born in Chicago. However, I was raised in St. Louis by my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
My mother was 15 when she was conceived by me.
Are you her first?
Yes. First and always. Her first in everything. Her first sexual experience, all of that.
Wow. She got pregnant first time.
First time. She met an entertainer, a dancer.
Oh.
Had never been on a date, was never allowed to go out, but some kind of way she met this entertainer. He was there doing some shows. That's how I was conceived. And
is he alive?
Yes, I believe he's in St. Louis. And anyway, so she wasn't able. She felt that she wasn't able to care for me like she would want to. So and give me the opportunity she thought that she wanted her daughter to have. So she gave me to her father and my step-grandmother. So I was with them at the age of 6 months.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Until when?
Till forever, right. All the way, yeah. And I went to, it was interesting, I went to visit my mother and my stepfather and my little sisters. I started going to visit them, I think at the age of 7. They would put me on the train, and I would go to Chicago and spend the summers with them. So I kind of had the best of two worlds. I was an only child with my grandparents, and then I'd go to Chicago and I'd have these sisters. So, and I think it was a good experience for me, because with my grandparents, I was in the house with adults with a whole different lifestyle of taking dance classes, music classes, doing all these things, and very focused on academics. And then when I go to Chicago, I was in a whole different world. My mother and stepfather lived in the projects. They didn't have a lot of things that I had in St. Louis. So at a young age, for some reason, I started thinking about being an entertainer and being in it, because I used to watch these little old movies. I loved Judy Garland and watch these, and I started looking at my little sisters. And then it was the time of Motown, and I'm thinking, wow, I think I might be able to do something. So I had my little sisters, and I was teaching them Diana Ross, Motown, Gladys Knight, Aretha Franklin, and we would put on these Motown reviews with my little sisters while my mother was working 2 jobs and my stepfather was working 2 or 3 jobs. And we would be in the projects. I would be teaching them the dance routines, and then when I thought my mother and stepfather wouldn't be at home, that night we would actually have the show.
What's a song? What is a song or a dance that you taught them, that you?
Oh, definitely was respect. Yes, I did. And I had my little crayons and markers, and I'd have them go out on the playground, and I'd have my sister, I said, I'd have her put on because she was big at that time. I said, now you put on mother's clothes, and I want you to go out there and pass those flyers. And you know how Marilyn Monroe, and I want you to show it, honey, and pass them flyers up. And they
Sell it.
Sell it, baby. And I was doing all this, and then it was starting to get real big, and I'm like, well, we got to have refreshments. So we started cooking up my mother's food, making cookies and stuff, and we were selling them, doing all of this stuff. I mean, really, it would be crowded in my mother's apartment, my mother's and stuff in her apartment. Until how I got caught was, I had made some kind of poster down at the elevator on the floor, and I forgot to take it down, and it said Motown Review, 5th floor, come and see. You come and see Aretha. And my mother saw that. She saw it.
And?
Oh, yes, and she knew my little sisters would have no concept of none of that. She said, this is you. I know it's you.
And?
Well, I'll say this. At that time, I guess people would consider it maybe child abuse, but she whooped my ass. She whooped it good.
Hand, belt, what?
All of the above, whatever she could find in place. She said, do you know what you have done? You have gotten these people in our house they could have stolen. You all could have been hurt. And she went on and on. But we had a ball.
And you were how old when you were
I was
cooking
doing that.
this up?
I was doing that around about 10.
And your sisters.
We're steps. We're little steps. They're all under me. They're years.
And they would have been how old?
Oh, I think one was 6. My other sister, I think she was about 9. Yeah, we're all stair steps. We're 1 year behind each other. So yeah, they did. Oh yeah.
And how would you play the music?
My family, my mother, they had the 45. Remember those? We had the record player. So yeah. So they would lip sing the songs. Oh yeah. So we had the music.
Did you sing them or did you just lip sync?
They lip sing most of them, yes. But then I had to teach them the dance routines. And then I brought in other people to fill in with other like Temptations and little guys and stuff.
Did you do your own dance routine or did you learn?
I choreographed out my own.
Oh.
Yeah, I did my own.
You didn't watch because...
Well, I watched what they did, but I did our own version of what my little sisters were.
And when you watched them, where did you see them? Where did you?
Television.
Oh, okay. Like what program?
Like, what is it, Dick Clark?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch Soul Train?
Soul Train.
Yeah.
Shindig.
Yeah.
Hullabaloo. Do people remember that? It was just a different kind of freedom that I had. It was just a whole different lifestyle that I had in Chicago as opposed to St. Louis. It was just completely different on so many levels. It was just, and I was, it was just
But
different.
your grandparents had to believe in the arts. Where did that come from? Because they didn't just park you in front of the television.
No, they didn't. They were reluctant. I guess they saw something in me because when I was in nursery school, I was always wanting, they had bringing jingle bells. I wanted to sing. I wanted to be out front. But it was interesting. I would do that, but I was very shy.
An introvert.
Very much so. Very much so. But when I would get up in front of a crowd, I was loud. But when I would sit down and all that, you wouldn't even know. I would just kind of blend in. I didn't even exist. I was just real quiet.
Well, nursing school. Why weren't you going to dance school or arts?
I did a little dancing, did all that. I wanted to major in theater. That was my goal, to major in theater. I started off as a theater major at Stevens College.
Where is that?
It's in Missouri.
Okay.
Interesting little facts about that. George C. Scott taught there before he got kicked out.
Why'd he get kicked out?
Women, honey.
Every time.
Joan,
I just had to ask.
Joan Crawford went there.
Oh, my word.
Oh, yeah, Joan Crawford went. Yeah, we had some stuff.
Like, what's your first show when you went there? What were you?
The first show that I was in was Peer Gynt.
Ah.
I played Anitra, totally terrified, because it was an all-women's college, but the professors played the male roles, and then we would bring in guys from the University of Missouri, so it was my first, and I was terrified. I was terrified, totally terrified, because my professor was Peer Gynt, and we had this kissing, do little kissing and all that, and he told me, one day he called me, he said, "Corey, you don't know what the hell you're doing." I said, "You're right, Professor Higgins. I don't."
Was his name Higgins? It wasn't Henry Higgins, was it?
No, it was Higgins. He says, "You don't know what the hell you're doing, do you?" I said, "No, Professor, I don't." He said, "Let me talk to you." He said, "Start looking at some Playboy magazines." I said, "Oh, okay." So they.
Did you look at Playboy?
I had so. And then the cast, I said, "Well, if you wanted this voluptuous stuff, why didn't you cast somebody like that?" "Well, we wanted it to be kind of a, sensual something, whatever."
But how is Playboy going to teach you how to kiss?
Well, I guess because I had to be voluptuous and all this.
Oh, he wants you to be
six sex
sexy,
kitten.
so
what
sexy,
they did was they said, "Well, we're going to have to construct you some breasts." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" So they took, I guess, many padded bras, and they created, and then they took some foam or whatever and made me these gigantic breasts, and then they had tassels. And it was interesting.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, so
This
I will
is-
never forget that. That was, and the students, my little buddies.
It sounds like Madeline Kahn. It sounds like they were looking for Madeline Kahn.
And they got this little skinny black girl. And the girls would always say, "Well, what is it like to kiss?" Because we had to kiss. And they say, "Well, and they were like, is it like an umbrella? Does he shoot his tongue straight in your mouth?" And open it up when I said, "Oh God." Oh, but it was interesting. And then we had to be in the bed together, pretend all this, and it was.
Well, that's difficult.
Yeah, it was very.
And yet you went back. You went back. You
kept going. I was a theater major up until my junior year. Then it became a minor, because then my family started questioning me about what I was going to do with this degree. And so my grandfather, as I call my father, was saying, "Well, you think you Peter Pan, but you're not that."
You're not flying.
He let me know. He says, "I'm going to let you, I've told you, you're a little poor black girl. You have nothing. What is mine is mine. You got to get your own."
Like Tinkerbell, he would not be believing. He would clap your hands if you believe.
He told me that. I said, "Okay, Daddy." So then I love literature. So then I became an English major. I was the editor of our literary magazine, and then I was like, oh, my family be, and my father was like, well, what does that mean? That's just as bad as theater. What you gonna do with that? Well, Daddy, I love to write poetry. He said, but you got to figure out what you gonna do when you get out of here. You need a job.
J-O-B.
So then I was certified to teach. I didn't want to do. I resisted it, but then I was certified to teach, and so when I graduated from Stevens, I taught high school. Terrified.
Where?
St. Louis.
Ooh.
Right in the heart of St. Louis.
In the city?
Oh, yes.
And what year? What grade?
This was 1975. I was not prepared for
And
that.
what grade?
High school. And when I came in there, they thought I was in high school. Oh, I was terrified. And those boys would come up to me when they found out that I was at that time they
snatch you up.
Snatched me up on a locker. You our teacher? Mm-hmm. Okay. We be waiting for you. I was terrified. I'm serious, literally terrified, because especially in that environment, life did not prepare, nothing prepared me for that. I was so shaken and taken, had so much anxiety, I had to take a leave of absence for about 2 months to try to figure out how I could cope with that. It was very,
Did you go back?
I went back.
And how did you figure out how to cope?
Something in me, in my core, told me, okay, Corlis, you can do this, you can handle this, and something clicked, and it worked. And I had those students, were so good to me. So I had to try to figure out a way to get students who weren't interested in theater, who weren't interested in reading, to try to figure out a way to get them. And it started with their own writings. They could see themselves on stage and to hear their own voices and to value themselves. And then I had to be involved in the community. I realized I had to connect with their parents. So I spend my weekends hanging out at their house, being with their moms and their cousins, all of that, because it was almost like me being an extension, another mother to them. And that was the way that worked. When we did our first play, Ceremonies and Dark Old Men, I had 3 guys in my play that were on probation. They told whoever the probation officers guys told me, they said, okay, we're gonna let you have your play, Miss Corlis, but after this, they coming with us. Oh no, they carted them off.
There was not an after party.
Well, no after
the
party.
After party was
the after party was clean, and they took their little asses right on off to the whatever, they took them to the jail or whatever. Yeah.
And did they say, okay, we're ready?
We ready. After they got off that stage, they took them right on out of there.
They didn't bolt.
No, they didn't. I told them, I say, let them do this play, and y'all can have them.
Wow. And they enjoyed the play.
They loved it. And matter of fact, one of those young men I'm so proud of, because of his experience, he ended up having an internship with the St. Louis Black Rep.
Wow.
And getting a job there.
Wow. Look what
Yes.
you did.
Yes.
Look at you.
Yes.
That's gotta have felt good.
It did.
Yeah. How long did you do that?
I did it for 11 years.
Oh my word.
11 challenging years. I did it for 11 years.
But did anybody ever lay hands on you?
They protected me.
So once you were in,
And I just had to figure out, because I came in there, well, I'm from Stevens, I taught this, I was exposed, all these, I get you talk about, philosophy and educate, all this stuff that they had drilled in me, and I'm thinking it wasn't working. Not with that.
Well, what is the secret if you're telling a young teacher who looks very young? She looks young as the student she's teaching. How do you command respect? What did you learn?
Well, one, you've got to show that you value them. You've got to show, and then and then I had to let them know that I've been in your shoes. I'm not like somebody way up here that I don't know. When I was with my grandparents, I went to school in the projects. My grandmother was a manager of the at a project unit, and they said they weren't going to let me go to. They said, no, we're not going to let you go to school wherever we live. We're going to put you down here downtown with me. So being exposed, and at that time, St. Louis had, those projects were probably some of the most dangerous areas in the city, comparable to St. Louis. But I went to school down up to the 8th grade there.
What was the name of the units?
Pruitt-Igoe.
Okay.
Yes, it was sort of like
Are they still there?
they're gone. They took them down. And so my grandmother, as a manager there, who had a wonderful giving spirit, but she had to have kind of a toughness in her to be the manager of that project, to work there. So my grandparents, they were like, no, we might live here, but Corlis is going to school here. And I went to school. So I had to let them know that it's not like I've come from some privileged area, blah, blah, blah. But no, I've been in your shoes. I can feel, I was around young people like you all. It's not like it's a disconnect. My grandparents, I really appreciate them with their work ethic in me and getting me to realize, Corlis, that you've got to give back to the community and you cannot forget where you come from.
Can't just bail.
You cannot. Yeah. My father was matter of fact, my grandfather was very active in the NAACP. He was a politician. Started off as a state representative, U.S. senator, state senator, and he was a United States Marshal under Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
He always bought a used car, what he called manual. Everything was manual. He didn't believe in having a radio in the car. I don't know if you remember the transistors radios.
He would ride around with a battery powered.
Yeah, he did, with rubber bands. I said, Daddy, I said, I don't need all that. What is that? You just need basic transportation. We're not spending money on that. All we need to go is Point B in it. He'd buy his clothes from the Goodwill or thrift stores. He didn't believe $20 for a shirt? Oh, no. He said, no, I can go to the thrift store and I can get them, they sell them for 50 cents. I said, Daddy, no. And that's just how he was. So all of that, even though I had that, I recognize the value of it's not about money and cars and all of that. It's about character and who you are and how you treat other people. And my father was always big on it. And he'd put me in my place in a minute.
What was your pitch to the kids to stay in school? Like when they were saying, I got me a little job, I got me this going on. Why do I need a degree?
That's fine now. But when you think down the road, you got to have something bigger than that. And even now, you got to have dreams. Because is what is going to move you. That's okay for now, for the immediate. But you've got to dream. And it's okay to dream big. And one thing I had to tell them, it's okay to fail. Failure is all right. If you want to call it failure, challenges. But sometimes, and I tell my students now, what people call failures have had more of an impact on me than successes.
Absolutely. That's
yes,
where
they
the lessons
have.
are.
The lessons are in that. I pick myself up, brush myself off, and I keep on going. Okay, you didn't, all right, but what did you learn from that, Corlis?
What was a time in which life, circumstance, just knocked you on your ass, just knocked the wind out of you?
When I got married.
Tell me about that.
The second time. I can go to the first time, but the second time. And I was married for a few months. And I thought this person understood who I was. And evidently he didn't want to. And he wanted me to leave the theater, leave my life as I was living it, and wanted to kind of control me. And I wasn't used to that. So as we came together in this, quote, marriage, he lived out of town, I was here in Charlotte. We were planning to merge our belongings together. And then when he, I guess, saw that I was resisting him, he set out for a plan I saw some red signs of the plan, but I wasn't connecting all the dots. So at that time, I was teaching at where was I teaching? I was teaching at Queens, and I was teaching at Johnson C. Smith. And as a matter of fact, I had 3 jobs. I was teaching at Shaw University on the side. So I was teaching at Shaw, and I was coming home that night. And it was a real funny feeling when I pulled up into my driveway, and the house looked kind of dark. And I remembered him calling me during the day, kind of checking to see how I was. Oh, how you doing, blah, blah. When I opened my door of my apartment, I had nothing. Everything was gone. All I had was the clothes on my back. He had taken everything that I owned. When I say everything, I mean just so petty. He took food. He took toiletries. Only thing he didn't get, because I guess he forgot it was in my storage, he didn't take my bike because it was locked up.
But forks, knives.
Damn right. He took toilet paper, baby. He took everything.
Light bulb.
Everything. He had left me nothing. He left
mattress.
Damn, yes. I had nothing. I'm serious. The whole complete apartment was gone. Everything I had was gone. Everything I owned in life, for as that was gone. It was gone. Everything.
Wow.
Everything.
And in your body, what did that feel like? What was your...
It was like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. And I kept blaming myself that I didn't see this. Why I didn't see this? Why didn't I? And it was gone. And I told myself, maybe he's holding this hostage, but it's okay. It's just shit. It's material things. And I think he thought that I was so hung up on that shit mattered to me so much that would destroy me. It wasn't so much the stuff was gone, but it was like a violation of some sort. So yeah, shit gone, fine. I can get some more. That's gone, fine. Let it go. If that gets your ass away from me, let it go. Got it. You happy? Take it.
So what did you do that night?
Well, of course, I cried, sat on the floor, cried, called the police. They said they could do nothing about it. It's civil. You have to go to court. I said, okay. Called one of my girlfriends. She let me stay with her. They gave me some clothes. Some other friends sent me some clothes and stuff. Oh, yeah, and he wiped out my bank, all my money, all the money, everything. Took everything. All that gone. Everything. Yes, oh, yeah.
So you had a bicycle. Did you have a car?
I had a car. I had to make, and then some of the money that I had to make sure that he didn't. See, I didn't, in terms, because he's an engineer, very shrewd, smart man in that sense. And I wasn't sure if he would have done something to my car or had access to it. So then I had to get I think I had to get the locks and all that changed off the car. Had to do all of that. But my family was very good to me. Very good. They were very supportive. They helped.
When you say family, who?
My grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my sisters, everybody. And so I was terrified to be in Charlotte. So that's when I left Charlotte. Did
you go back to St. Louis?
No, I went to Baltimore.
Why?
I headed the theater department in Morgan State University.
Congratulations.
That
is
yeah,
neat. That's wonderful.
I went there and taught there. Yeah, good experience there. Got to direct one of my favorite shows, A Soldier's Play. Had a good I just couldn't handle Baltimore. Baltimore was a little intense for me. People said, "Oh, you from St. Louis? You grew up in Chicago. Girl, you can handle." Oh hell, not in maybe that stage of life. I'm like, and I'm parking my car and I'm looking around. I'm like, why do these people have these sticks? What are these sticks in their car? They said, oh no, those are locks. Locks for what? Locks so they won't steal your car. I'm like, what? Oh, it's like that? Oh, yes, it's like that, honey. Then I found the Arena Theater, one of the oldest African American community theaters in the country.
Yeah. I
Yes.
heard when they did The Wire that they just.
Oh yeah, some of my students were in The Wire. Oh yeah, that was
Would I
good.
know any of them? Would I know, like.
I don't know what part, yeah, but a lot of my students, because they couldn't take classes, they were like, Doc, we in The Wire. I said, hey, go for it. Yeah, oh yeah, a lot of my students at that time were in The Wire.
That was amazing. That was a game changer.
Yeah,
that
it was
show.
very much so.
And then what? What changed?
And then the president of Livingstone College
Uh-huh.
contacted me and said, Corlis, I want to do something real. I said, well, what does that mean? Oh, we want to do some theater. I said, but I keep telling, and I have to kind of, how can I say, with HBCUs, it's, especially the ones I've worked for, a lot of them feel if you hire me, you've done a lot. You have not. Hiring me is only a small portion if you want to create a theater department. I had to learn that the hard way. So I said, if I come back, I gotta have a theater, I gotta have a tech, I gotta have somebody that can teach technical theater, and I need another theater generalist, because I can't do all of this by myself. So she agreed to my terms of what I wanted, what I needed, and they said that they would pay for my relocation, everything. They
Wow.
agreed to my terms, and I'm like,
That's great.
and I was back.
Yep. Came back south. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Why do you live in North Carolina? Why don't you live in St. Louis in the Midwest or in Chicago or
I just feel here, I guess once I got here, I fell in love with North Carolina.
what?
The people, it was a spirit here, and to me it was like a new frontier for me. It was a newness. Yeah, Chicago's got lots of theater, lots of community theater, lots of professional theater. And St. Louis, but at this time in North Carolina, there wasn't a lot going on like that. Q wasn't even on the scene at that time.
Quentin Talley.
None of that. And I just saw this kind of as an awakening. I was a little miserable, I'm not gonna lie, especially in Salisbury, because I'm very urban. Very urban. And I wasn't used to what they said. As soon as I got there, the students said, well, Doc, you know the city shut down at 9. I said, excuse me. And they introduced me to the ABC store. I said, well, honey, what is that? Well, if you buy liquor, I said,
And it
what?
closes.
I said, I'm used to going get liquor in a drive-by. Honey, you don't even have to get out your car. You can buy.
They hand it in the window.
I said, okay, I should understand now. When I got off the plane and I saw Billy Graham Parkway, I should have known. I'm in the South, baby. I'm
Yeah.
in the Bible Belt.
Yes.
But it was just something about this area. I kept saying, well, I might go back home. But the more I stayed here, the more comfortable I was, and what I thought that I could do something here. I'm not saying that it would make a difference in anybody. If that happened, fine. But it was just something in here that I thought that I felt good about and comfortable with and can make a connection of something. And that's what it was.
How did you end up being more on the director end and teaching end and not on the acting end?
All by happenstance, because it was nothing I ever wanted. I've never wanted to direct. And matter of fact, I've never asked anybody to direct. I've never once have I asked somebody, can I direct that show? I've always kind of fought it because I've always think of myself as an actor. I'm an actor first. And one thing about it, I guess, is because of control. I know I have, whatever you think, if you got some control over this, I have a voice with this, I can manage this, I know what I can give, what I can bring. But when you're a director, you're dealing with so many variables, especially when you're dealing with theater that I've been involved with, community theater, where people don't have a lot of money, where they don't have, some may not have a lot of experience, and they've got a whole lot of other social challenges to deal with. So you become more than just a director. You become a teacher, a psychiatrist, a carpenter, a counselor. You become so many other things. And even doing it when I was directing, even on a college level, you become so many. And I saw that, and I said, I don't want that. I'm fighting that. But something was pulling me, because I've just never went out to seek directing. It just all that just came happenstance. I never wanted to, like I said, I never wanted to teach acting. I just wanted to act. I didn't want to teach this.
But in our little corner of the world, we see theater companies die on the regular. And I find it terribly sad. I find it just like an independent restaurant.
And it's getting worse now. Yeah, it's especially here, because I know you've heard about the Arts and Science Council and all of that. Yeah.
How do we blow on the embers? How do we kindle a little something? What do you?
Well, I think we have to give a voice, and I think we have to find ways, like even in terms of communicating these things, like maybe through social media, discussions, right in the grassroots of the community. I think we need to give voice to these, because a lot of people are not even aware of it.
What kind of a place? When you say grassroots, I don't know.
Community centers. Community centers, churches.
Like bring the theater to
yes.
people.
And this is what I'm on the board of Theater Charlotte, and they're now kind of redesigning themselves, and they've asked me. I'm serving as the chair now of their diversity, equality, and inclusion, and I've had to hit them with hard questions.
Like?
The perception of them has been historically with the black community that it is a theater of privilege, of white privilege. And if you want more of a black audience or audiences of color, you've got to change some of the perceptions just on play selection.
Can't everything be the Music Man?
Oh no, right. And you can't just give us, if you want to call it giving us, one play, and that's a musical. And if you do give us a play, it's on Black History Month, because it's patronizing, it's offensive, and even myself, as a director, I've had to tell people, yes, I'd like to do that, but don't marginalize me, don't put me in a box for February. Why do we have to do this in February? Why do you want? There's other months. Why does the show have to be there? Don't put us in the box. So when you continue to do that. Not only that, when you have plays and you don't consider open casting, or whatever you want to call it, blind casting, you do these traditional plays, the Sunshine Boys, like you say, Sound of Music, blah, blah, blah. And when black people or people of color see the audition notices, first thing they're going to say is, oh, it's nothing for me there. I'm not going to do. Why would I waste my time? They're not going to cast me in that.
So what you have to do is go to black actors and say, and dancers and singers, and say, I want you to audition.
Yeah, and I tell, and even myself, I love Shakespeare, and I've been very blessed because I do a lot, and a lot of times I'm like, okay, I'm not going to have them put me in a box. Yes, I'm going to go out and audition for this show. Yeah, you may not put me in there, but I'm going to put something on your mind. So
right.
You tell me why I'm not in there. Yeah, so and I recall years ago when Theater Charlotte did a Glass Menagerie. I had no idea they were thinking about doing all black version of Glass Menagerie. One of my friends said, Corlis, you need to go. I said, why am I going out there to wait? She said, you need to go. So I said, I'll go. So I went to the audition. There was a lot of people of color, a lot of blacks there. So when we got to the callbacks, there were no white folks. I'm like, boy, this is kind of odd. that's when I started hearing these rumbles. They didn't want to come out and say it. I guess they thought that, for whatever reason, that they wanted to do an all black, but they didn't want to say it. But that's what their intention was. So they opened it up to everybody. But when the callbacks came, there were no white people. You see what But see, even that, to me, that it shouldn't have gone like that. It shouldn't have gone even like that.
But
just tell people the truth. And that's what I love about Shakespeare, because to me, especially with its universal things, those characters, those could be anybody. They don't have to be black. It could be white, black, whatever. So that's that kind of. But I'm just trying to get Theater Charlotte to understand that they have, and they're beginning to see it, just like all of all the concessions, ushers, front of house people, your designers, all of those people have traditionally been they're all white.
Well, I wonder if you went to the middle of Nebraska or Oklahoma and said, we go do Ma Rainey's Black File.
I think that would be a good thing.
It would be fascinating.
I would love to.
Raisin in the Sun.
Even that. I would love to do right, why not? Why not? And when you mentioned Nebraska, I believe, and I'm mistaken, but I think Corey Mitchell, who teaches
my daughter had him.
I think Corey took A Color Purple to Nebraska.
Love it.
Yeah, I think he took Color Purple to Nebraska.
First teacher to ever win a Tony. First teacher
I cried when I saw it.
Oh my God! I took a screenshot of the TV screen.
Yeah, Corey's directed me.
And sent it.
Many times he's directed me.
To this day, why does the theater speak to you?
I guess it's something about being on stage with a live audience. It's very vulnerable. For me, it's always frightening. But it's like a gift. It's kind of, and I don't know, it's almost like a holy experience for me. And when people think about church, it's something that's in me that when I'm on that stage gives me the opportunity to bring that gift out, to share whatever that is with someone else. And to me, this is the medium for me to do it. Because I haven't done a lot of film, but from what I know of film, it's the director's more medium than the actor's. And to me, as an actor, like I've been talking about, it gives me the opportunity to show whatever that is. I have some control or whatever that may, and I guess I'm using it because that's probably kind of who I am. I'm kind of a perfectionist in some way, but it gives me the opportunity to bring whatever that out, to show it kind of at least on my terms in a very raw. But I always think of theater as a holy place, as a place of ritual, as a place even of privilege to. This is a sacred place, and we need to honor it. And when we go on there, it's almost like you're exposing your soul. You've got to be that real, not just even with the audience, but with yourself. I don't know if that answers.
No,
it's just
that's
that
very
for
touching.
Me.
It's
that for me, and it's that for me, and when we talked about failure and all that, and I will admit, every time I do a play, anything, that's always in the back of my mind. Corlis, you're competing against yourself. It's not about anybody else. It's not about anybody. It's you. And because I'm so hard on myself, Stuart. I really am. And that's something that I do need to work on. Because I always think, okay, you did that. What else you doing? Because it's like, all right, you did that, but what are you doing now? So sometimes I have to get myself, step back, Corlis, relax, chill for a minute, and let all that digest and before you dive in. So I've had to learn it because I was so driven, jumping from one thing to another, that now I'm pulling myself back and just trying to enjoy those moments instead of just being driven on this train like And it's not about proving. It's always about, and I think it's my proving my self-worth. I think it even goes back to my childhood, because my family, like I said, they had no idea of theater and the value of it. It was a frill. It's playtime. It's not a. It's because my grandfather, my grandmother, they didn't know anything about theater and actors and all of that. They just considered that a frill. It's fun time. It's make believe. It's nothing that's real in that sense. But so they gradually came. Not I won't say totally, but my grandfather gradually kind of came around to some extent. But it's never been one. See, in their minds, especially during that time of the 70s, you were a doctor, you went to law school, you were a teacher, you were a nurse. That's some value. That's something practical. So it's almost like I was just constantly proving myself. Daddy, this is valid. This is real. I can make a living with this. It's true to who I am. So I think all that, Stuart, I'm still kind of fighting that in my head.
And when did the light bulb go on? Did you see the light bulb go on in his mind a little bit? Did he see a show
I think the light bulb kind of went a little bit. Maybe when I was in graduate school and he saw some things and he was okay. My grandmother was very different. She was open to whatever I wanted to do, but she just didn't know any better. Because if I'd had my way if I got out of Stevens, I would have went to New York. I would have went, and they were like, girl, you can't even handle St. Louis. What you talking about, New York? But she would have supported. But my father was such a very practical man. He believed in that, what do you call it, Booker T. Washington? Pull yourself. Oh yeah, that. And that's what he believed in. Honest work for honest living. That is fun time. You got it. What about and he was always telling me, Corlis, what you saving? Well, Daddy, I'm 20. Don't matter. You need to prepare now. When I bought my first car, biggest mistake I made was taking my father. I was so excited I had some money. I'm going to buy and I'm looking at these cars, and I could see this face. What's that? Oh, Daddy, that's air conditioning. What you need that for? Daddy, you know it's hot in St. Louis. Well, we live out of it. That's why they got windows. Keep them rolled. Save you some gas. What? You just need transportation back and forth to this teaching job you got. You don't need all of that.
By the same token, they were telling you and showing you at the same time, there's not going to be some man who's going to be your meal ticket, retirement,
They taught
whatever.
me that very early. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. When my father dropped me out for college, he said, I'm going to tell you something. And don't you, he said, because I was at this predominantly white school with young white girls who not only had cars, they had horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these girls brought their horses, they had money, they blah, blah, blah. He said, I'm going to tell you something. You a poor little black girl, and don't you ever forget it. I don't care who you up here with these white folks. You have nothing. You on here with a scholarship? I said, yeah. He said, well, okay, then that's how you live. And he gave me very little money. I had a little job as a table. At that time, they believed in family dining. I made 90 cents a meal setting up tables. And all that could do was buy me but some toothpaste and some soap or whatever. But I said, well, Daddy, the girls have TVs in their room. He said, well, what that got to do with me? I said, well, Daddy, I'd like to have a little. He finally, my senior year, bought me this little mini black top. And I guess that probably like to kill
Black
them.
and white.
Black and white. He said, that's, I said, Daddy. And I guess all that kind of, and you know what, now I'm older, all the stuff that my father was teaching. It's all coming back.
Well, I don't even know. Did you ever have kids? You didn't?
No.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That was a choice, I guess.
Choice. And
Yeah.
now I kind of, and I guess when I work with a lot of young people, I kind of see them as my children in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah.
I get very attached to people, but yeah.
What do you say your legacy is to today?
I hope that part of it would be generosity, because I give a lot of myself, because I want to, on so many levels. Caring, appreciating the worth of someone else. Mm-hmm. And it's on so many levels in terms of, when I say generosity, it could be in terms of knowledge, information, time.
Well, you've been tremendously generous with me. God bless you. And I so respect and admire.
We all got to be watching out for each other. So, we're all in this together. And we've got to, yeah. So they're
There's
good at that.
No community like it. There's absolutely no community like it. Might be the military. Might be a squad in the military, but there's just no community like it.
No, it is
Really,
not. There's
really.
nothing there.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank
God
you.
bless you.
I hope I wasn't too much. I am
Oh,
so.
you're awesome. You are awesome.
Oh.
You are awesome. It's a
Okay.
lot of fun. Thanks. If there is a maven or a grande dame of community theater, just the theater, who is just a treasure, we're so blessed to have Corlis here in the Charlotte area. Thank you, Corlis.
Man Listening is a production of Unmediated LLC in cooperation with the Queen City Podcast Network and Balto Creative Media. Allison Andrews at Andrews Creative and Rachel Clapp-Miller are developmental producers. Sally Higgins at Higgins & Owens tries to keep us legal. Our music is A Day at the Park by the group Pictures of the Floating World. Your announcer is Catherine Smith. That's me. Please go to our Patreon page. You'll find us at patreon.com. Look for Man Listening, one word, no spaces. We hope you'll join us by becoming a member. A small investment can raise up the conversation. If you want exclusive member merch, like a t-shirt, we can arrange that too.
A great big old shout out and a huge thank you to everyone who has supported Man Listening through it all. We're coming up on, I guess, more than a year and a half. That's amazing. I just love you guys. Thanks.
Don't forget to support us at Patreon. We believe one voice can change the conversation. Click the subscribe button, and next week you'll hear.
I don't understand why I have this disease. I don't know if I've done something wrong, but I don't know if there's a lesson for me.
That's next week on Man Listening. Thanks.